Please welcome Plani Sundaramathi, Principal Program Manager Lead, Windows and Device Group, who will discuss Windows Hardware Development Center. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause to welcome Plani.
Hello everyone, a very good afternoon to all of you. It is very exciting to be here today on WinHEC and share the story for Hardware Dev Center and how much progress we've made since we shipped the new Hardware Dev Center November of last year. So let me introduce myself. My name is Plani Sundaramurthy. I'm a lead program manager on the Hardware Dev Center team at Microsoft. So I know this is the first session after lunch. So most of you, I wanted to warmly welcome you by saying, I want to reiterate that Hardware Dev Center is a place that accepts drivers of all shapes and forms. So all drivers are welcome. Before we actually go into the presentation, I wanted to give a warm hello from the team at Redmond. This is the team that brought you Hardware Dev Center. These are the guys who work with you every day on bugs, live sites, and new feature development. And they are excited for me to come up on stage and present to you today. Also, a big thank you to all the partners inside of Microsoft who made all of this possible. And most importantly, I would like to thank each and every one of you for making Hardware Dev Center the place where you submit your drivers and give us so much valuable feedback. This is the Microsoft main campus, Building 83. This is where the team sits. So if you ever plan to visit Seattle sometime, I would like you to come and visit us. We'll show you the place. It's one of the newest buildings on the campus. And also, we'd like to meet with you and talk to you and learn about your stories. We want to grow with you, and I hope that you will make use of this opportunity. So what are we going to talk about today? So first, we're going to look at some numbers. So some stats from the new Hardware Dev Center. We will walk through some features that are uniquely available in the new Hardware Dev Center. We want to share with you the feedback we've received and what we are doing to address this feedback. And finally, we'll give you a sneak peek of what is to come. So let's dive in. So we started this journey in November of last year, and since then, we have seen a record number of partners use the Hardware Dev Center. It has been a very good learning opportunity for us. We have learned a lot. We know areas where we're doing well. We also acknowledge that there is areas of growth for us. So this chart shows the activity that's happening worldwide for the last 3 months. So the Hardware Dev Center is a very global destination. And I can tell that people in Taiwan love Hardware Dev Center, as you can see from the big bubble there. Thank you for all the love and support. So in the last 3 months, we've had over 350,000 page views. We've had over 1,500 transacting partners. And if you see the dips in the graph, it's because people take their weekends off. And so the traffic reflects that. So not just in terms of being a global destination with a record number of partners, by every measure, the submissions in the new Hardware Dev Center are at a record high. And the Windows 10 driver announcements have some reason to see this increased traffic. But what's really interesting is that in spite of this record traffic and record partners and record submissions, we have moved the needle in terms of usability, performance, and reliability of this new of the new portal. It has really scaled well to handle this kind of traffic. So this is one of my favorite charts. It shows one of the scenarios that we have enabled for hardware partners like you. So the reselling volume has increased almost 5-fold. And we've done a lot of investments in Hardware Dev Center for partners like you to really simplify and streamline the experience of how you resell your drivers. And we're doubling down on these investments in the months to come. We can confidently say that a combination of Dev Center and Windows Update will be the easiest way for you to distribute your drivers to your partners. We hope you will we'll see in the slides to come some scenarios that we've unlocked. So we hope you will take advantage of this and really help us in this journey together. So in addition to we talked about how, in addition to taking the traffic, we're also doing better on many fronts. So the Hardware Dev Center portal was built with the same underlying framework that powers the App Dev Center for the Windows Store, which means that the number of engineering investments that we have done to make sure that app developers have a fast experience also directly translate here. So this chart shows one such measure of performance, which is the ingestion and publish time. So if you look at the graph, on the y-axis, you see the latency of submissions measured in minutes. And on the x-axis, we have 3 submissions from the same partner in the old SysDev portal versus the new Dev Center portal. It clearly shows that both across ingestion and publishing, we have been significantly faster on the new Dev Center. So what this means is that you spend less time on Dev Center and more time building your drivers. It also means that you now have Dev Center and Windows Update as the fastest way for you to reach your customers that you want to sell your drivers to. This chart kind of makes the point even more obvious. So graphics drivers are among the most complex drivers we see today. And the team has spent has made a lot of deliberate investments in making sure that the performance for these kinds of complex drivers are really good. And graphics drivers used to take 4 hours. It used to take 40 hours to publish. We've brought it down to 4 hours. How do we do that? So we've made investments so that the Hardware Dev Center really scales well when we see a large number of hardware IDs or a large number of INFs inside your package. We also realize that complex drivers have more files. And so operations like signing, for example, have been streamlined and fine-tuned so you have faster experience. So again, this will mean that a combination of Dev Center and Windows Update will give you the fastest way for you to reach your customers. And behind the scenes, we've also done a lot of investments to make sure that the driver outcomes are very consistent. So we've improved the reliability so you have more predictable outcomes each time you submit the driver. We'll talk a little bit more about those engineering investments in a bit. So when we started building Hardware Dev Center, we talked to you first, even before we wrote a single line of code. And we've been having this journey with you. We've gotten some great feedback in terms of how the Hardware Dev Center is performing today. So here is some codes that we've gotten verbatim from our partners. So it's not just overall feedback, but also we've shipped some very specific delighters that improve your productivity, and we've gotten great feedback about that. People love the search functionality, how quickly we are able to process large submissions, the additional control about reseller and bulk, the ability to do bulk resell. So with that stats in mind, let's also take a look at some of the innovations that we've shipped in the new Hardware Dev Center that you can take advantage of. So we'll break it along 3 themes. So we'll talk about how Dev Center makes you ready for what's next. There's some very exciting announcements that you have seen earlier in the day today. And we can talk about how Dev Center enables you to keep up with the changes that Microsoft has announced. We have done some scenarios to maximize your productivity. We can talk about how you can leverage those. And finally, driver management is simplified. So as you've seen in the keynote, and in a couple of sessions preceding this, Windows 10 S is streamlined for security and superior performance. This is a very exciting direction for Microsoft, and Hardware Dev Center is ready for this change. It is ready to accept Windows 10 drivers, Windows 10 S drivers when you can submit them. You are in the driver's seat for the quality of these drivers. There's a lot of documentation around what it takes to build a driver that is compatible for Windows 10 S devices. I encourage you to read the documentation, catch up on the previous sessions, and really follow the principles of 10S driver development. Viraf and Luke talked about declarative drivers, building componentized drivers, hardware-supported apps, and using universal APIs. So it's important to make sure that these principles are followed in order to build compatible Windows 10 S drivers, which you can then distribute through the Hardware Dev Center. I would encourage you to attend the driver workshop sessions that Luke and Viraf are conducting tomorrow. to learn more about the details of how to build compatible Windows 10 S drivers. Another area that we've invested and we've shown a lot of progress is driver promotion. So what driver promotion allows you to do is partners like you can test your drivers with a small audience for quality before you release it to a broader audience. And we use driver promotion for co-engineering scenarios as well as servicing scenarios. So what we've really improved in the new dev center is that we've made the whole experience self-serve. So you can come to the portal, fill out a form like this with the right amount of information, and we have connected this to the back-end flighting pipeline that we have. So you're constantly aware of the progress of the drivers as it goes through the promotion flighting pipelines. What this means is no more bugs, no more emails, no more back and forth, and you have a very seamless view into the world of what's happening when you attempt driver promotion. We're really excited to announce that we're expanding on this driver promotion program. My colleague Mark Pelly will talk more about the details. But the idea is that you can now, more partners can enroll, and while we still maintain the SLA for how quickly we can turn around promotion requests. We also realize that there's a lot of usage and interest around here, and we do plan to double down and improve on the driver promotion scenarios as it applies to the dev center experience. Please stay tuned to the session by my colleague Mark Paley, which is happening right after this, to learn more details. You saw in the earlier chart about how we've had a 5-fold increase in reseller activity. And that was a very deliberate thing. So when we built Dev Center, we built primitives to enable bulk reselling. So why do we need to resell? You have DUAs, or driver update acceptable, which enables an OEM to customize the IHV drivers after it's initially certified. In the past, the SysDev portal allowed you to DUA a resell, but not resell a DUA. It is a very time-consuming operation to be able to configure this kind of reselling activity. And so what we've done is that through the shipping label, in one click, you're able to do a bulk reselling operation. And we're not all done here. We still realize that there are gaps in terms of how we can do better. We can, for example, attempt to try to resell multiple DUAs to the same partner. We are very actively looking into this and how to make this experience even more productive. But I highly encourage you to use these productivity features in Dev Center and give us feedback on how we can make it better. We talked about the engineering investments that we have done when we built this new hardware Dev Center. One of the areas that we have been very deliberate about is to provide clear and actionable information when something goes wrong. As you see in the chart here, we've provided you bubbles on the top that indicates the progress of your submission. We've gotten great feedback from the partners because it tells them where they are in the journey and what remains to be done. A recent area of investment that we've done is that the message that you see when submissions don't behave as you intended is clearer and actionable. For example, you can now download failure logs that gives you the ability to quickly correct your mistakes. We also provide contextual context support information in some of the error message. So this allows you to get resolution for issues that you are blocked on. And that's not all. Behind the scenes, we've done even more investments. For example, if you go to Dev Center today, you'll see that it points to the latest version of the kit. We are working really hard to make sure that there is good alignment between the version of the kit we ship and the version of the kit that we use during validation in Dev Center. We are also ramping up the documentation that we will provide to you to make sure that you are able to find issues sooner and fix them sooner. Here's another productivity delighter that so we've enabled distribution even when your submission is in progress. So this means that once a submission succeeds, the distribution options that you've configured will automatically take care of. So this is especially good for drivers that have a long publish time. Another area that we have shown considerable progress when we ship the new Dev Center is improving your productivity by having a better assessment of the quality of your components. The Dev Center analytics page allows you to get the handle on the quality. So for the very first time, we shipped Dev Center APIs for all our reports, and this is supported for all versions of Windows. We've also enabled the ability to download crash cabs, which helps you debug and get higher product quality. We have shipped failure reports for both IHVs and OEMs. With the IHV failure report, the IHV can now view failures across the different OEMs. And OEMs can view failures across the different models. We've brought back some of the familiar filters that you're aware, so you can filter these reports by OS version, by market, by models. We've also added some new filters like baseboard ID, which will allow you to quickly drill down to the problem. And that's not all. So behind the scenes, we're also working on better organizing this information. For example, we're looking at ways of classification of issues based on driver types. We're also looking at ways to connect failures with bugs and make that a seamless experience from the Dev Center portal itself. I think you'll be happy about this. We just shipped this feature a couple of weeks ago. This is an example of how we can improve the productivity for you by making sure that you can view the entries that you need very quickly. So it's no more scrolling through pages and pages of operating system and hardware ID combinations to find what you need. You can simply specify the hardware IDs that you care about, and only those entries will show up. So just in the last couple of days, we've gotten plenty of feedback from partners that we need to do more of this. We need you to be able to find the things that matter to you quickly, and we're absolutely committed to making sure that's the case. Another feature that we've shipped recently is to stay on top of changes. We are improving on our auditing capabilities internally and making sure that we are able to expose that to you so you know exactly what change happened and when, and you can follow the activity trail. We need to rethink our dashboard views so that these activities are also visible to you. For example, the things that you could favorite a driver, or you could look at a driver that last changed, or the driver that failed a submission. So we are looking into user experiences that will give you the things that you care about. Another one, I think we're increasingly moving Dev Center along the direction of empowering you to make decisions. And this UI is this user experience is one such example. We want to have a self-serve model for you where you can decide the choices that you make without having to have this back and forth over email or bugs, and allow you to take control of your decisions. So here in this user experience, you can limit the public disclosure of your shipping label just with the one click in Dev Center. So through this journey, we've shown the improvements that we've made in terms of new unique features we've shipped, the performance and other numbers that show up in the new hardware Dev Center and how it compares to the older system that we've had. But we realize that we are not, this is just a journey that has started. We've been listening to feedback from various sources. We've been talking to Tier 1 partner support, Tier 2 partner support, our ecosystem engineering team, our friends in the driver promotion team, to really understand where is it that you are having the most pain, and find ways to address the places where in a very prioritized way. So on the right-hand side, you see the pie chart that shows a breakdown of issues from the last 3 months. It is across the spectrum, but clearly submission is an area where we see a lot of the errors. I'm really very happy to inform you that just in the last few weeks, we have fixed a bunch of issues that have to do with things like error logs, tool bugs around INF verification, the versioning of the kit. So we've made tremendous progress there, and we hope that these numbers will improve as we go along. On the publishing side, you've told us that sometimes shipping labels are not created. We already talked about scenarios where you cannot share multiple shipping labels to the same partner, and we're definitely looking into ways of addressing that kind of feedback. Account management is an area we've definitely had growing pains. We've recently fixed an issue that had to do with inviting users easily. We know that you've had trouble with account recovery and EV cert expiry, and being able to link them across multiple accounts. And we've been talking internally to enable the Tier 1 and Tier 2 partner support so they have the right level of information and troubleshooting tools to unblock you as soon as you can. So on the manual review side, we do see a lot of inquiries from partners around the status of their activity, the request to fast-track their activity, and what that's telling us is internally we need to do a better job of being able to make this information available through self-serve basis, and we need to find better ways of communicating that proactively to you. And finally, on the signing side, we've seen some failures and some error logs that we've recently fixed. But hopefully, we expect to see these trend lines get better over time. And myself and my dev lead are here today, and please feel free to find us and give us feedback one-on-one. We're very open to it, and we really deeply care about making sure that you have a great experience on the Hardware Dev Center. And Naomi has a talk tomorrow on the best practices for the driver servicing session. I think following that would also be helpful, especially around cases like when we have inquiries for the different kinds of driver-related requests. So other areas, so in addition to just the underlying issues, we've also seen various themes of feedback, which we have touched at different points in the presentation. I think it is very clear that the ability to notify you of things that you care about in a very custom way is important. And so we need to think through how we notify today and how we can make changes there. You've also given us feedback that you want to be able to look for things based on various identifiers. It could be shipping label identifiers, hardware ID, or CHIDs. And we need to do a better job of exposing these things to you so that you can search for the things that you care about quickly. We talked a little bit about tracking the drivers. So you need to be able to specify the criteria that you want to use. And the user experience needs to support a way that you can quickly view them in Dev Center. And as we go and open up driver promotion and other areas where we do more of co-engineering and servicing, we need to make sure that the Hardware Dev Center user experience is thoughtful for the problems we want to solve. And finally, I think we've gotten feedback around cancellation to allow cancellation of in-progress submissions, and we are definitely thinking through some of these. And you should expect to see us deliver them in the months ahead. One call to action here is, there is a lot of backlog of things that we want to do, so getting feedback on the prioritization of the things that matter to you will be very helpful to us. So the last section I want to talk a little bit about what's in the road ahead and give you a sneak peek of what are some of the things that are top of mind for us. So the first is the SysDev to Dev Center migration status. As you're probably aware, we have opened up HLK, HCK, attestation, and system submissions in the new Hardware Dev Center. They're open submissions. We are actively working on the other features, test signing, WLK, UFI, and LSA. And we expect to deliver them by the end of this year. The migration for the current submissions in each of these areas are under various stages. And that's where I think we need your feedback most. We want to make thoughtful decisions on which submissions to move forward and which of them to not do that. So, for example, we have seen that there are a number of submissions in the system that we have today that are either older or out of policy. So we need to form an opinion on how to move forward and how to make sure that you have a great experience as you move over to the new system. And so if you have any specific feedback, please do let us know. Dev Center APIs. I know this has been the #1 ask for a lot of partners for a while now. We've started this journey with Dev Center Analytics, and I think we are making great progress towards telling a better story for the rest of the product. We intend to make these Dev Center APIs available across the spectrum for various scenarios like submission, distribution, and resale activity. We intend to have it easier for you to be able to innovate faster by publishing the code samples in GitHub. The chart below shows one proposed approach that we could take, given the wide surface area of these APIs across the various scenarios that it covers. So we came up with an internal view of what the phased approach could look like. we are very open to feedback here on the prioritization of the scenarios and the sequencing of our approach. We want to be able to enumerate, in the first phase, support the various enumeration scenarios and basic scenarios that involve full targeting of devices. In the next phase, we want to be able to support DUA type scenarios and move over from full targeting to enabling selective targeting. And finally, in the last phase, we want to be able to give you the ability to modify these submissions and request promotion requests through APIs. Our goal is that you are able to use this within your build system and be very productive at what you do. And any feedback that you have in terms of scenario prioritization is welcome. So you can find me at the end of this talk or talk with your Microsoft representative to provide feedback if you want to partner with us on any of these phases, so we can have you as an early adopter and make sure that your scenarios are accounted for as we roll out these features. We're also excited to announce the expansion of the Dev Center family, the hardware Dev Center family, to welcome IoT. As you know, the Dev Center today supports apps, it supports games, it supports Cortana skills, it supports drivers. It spans across various device families. We support PCs, phones, Xbox. And so now we're expanding to the IoT family. So what this means is that Windows IoT is going to be a first-class citizen in Hardware Dev Center. OEMs can publish packages to Windows Update and distribute them to Windows IoT core devices. So how is this going to work? So the OEMs can sign up on Hardware Dev Center, just like how they've been doing for drivers. Then you can register what's known as an OCP, or an OEM component package. This is your BSP and your OEM packages. Then you can define which device and then upload your OCP. Once you've selected your device to target, your OCP, and more importantly, you can specify which version of the operating system your OCP applies to. You can then have it delivered through Windows Update to the appropriate device with the right OS payload. We're very excited about it, and we are already starting the early pilots for Windows IoT Core. And if you're interested, please talk to us, and we can give you more information in terms of how you can be part of this program. So with that, I think I'd like to wrap up my presentation. And again, please make sure to attend the sessions that follow. Mark Bailey's on driver promotion, and Naomi for servicing. And if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please send them to me, and I'd be very happy to work with you. Thank you.